Welcome in, friends. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate it. So today, we're going to do a couple of things. Last night, we got a new world record in Ultima Underworld 2 any% that beat our previous world record. And this one is the first single segment sub 26. I was not expecting to get this. In fact, the last time, after we got the 2605, I wanted to keep running the game with vague hopes of getting a sub 26. But I figured that it was possible that would be the last time I ever PB'd in this game ever again. And now we have the sub 26. And so I thought it would be fun to watch back not just the 2557, but to put it side by side with the 2605. Because there are at least 3 points in this run where the 2557 is dead even with the 2605. I have not watched back this side by side yet. I just threw this together last night. So this will be a fun experience for all of us. So, with that being said, let's get this started. I'm going to try not to pause so that we can all just watch this straight through. So one thing that I do want to talk about is that the way that I do this run is using a druid so that I can get the search skill, which lets me not have to do this awful jump at the very beginning of the sewers. I also know that the 2557 bumps into things a lot, and so we'll be a little bit behind in this first castle segment. Like right there, bumped into the wall. But these tiny little things, I think they sort of matter, but not nearly as much as the RNG that can happen in this game. This switch up here is the switch that the search skill lets us use. Otherwise, you would have to jump over those disappearing pits on the left side, which is faster, but I find it so inconsistent, and just a very unfriendly thing to put at the very beginning of the run. So I always just go with the safer, more consistent taking the search skill, and I just eat the time loss. So I know that this first segment is one that ends dead even. And so it's interesting how the 2605 is seemingly so far ahead right away. So I'm curious to see where the 2557 catches up. I think both of these runs had fast goblin kills, just 2 shots. So I wonder if the catching up is entirely from death warping on Garg. Yeah, it looks like It looks like Garg. Looks like the Garg kill was faster. So that's what I mean by sometimes the time saves just happen from just random things. So I'm a little annoyed that the 2557 did not get that fast switch pull. That also doesn't save a huge amount of time, but it looks cool. So it's a shame that it's not in the sub 26. Something I started incorporating here is using the mouse to turn the camera here, because mouse turning is faster than keyboard turning. So there are a few points in the run where we use mouse turning to take corners more efficiently or to turn more quickly when we need to. The 2557 had some slippery candles, apparently. I know I had good rats on the... Okay, it looks like they both had pretty good rats. Those rats can get in the way, and if they hit you, they poison you, which puts your health in dangerous territory when you come up to the listener fight. So all of this dialogue at the beginning here is really just to it's to gain information about the world. Wow, and it looks like the 2557 just caught up and took the lead. I actually missed where that happened. It must have been with NPCs in the hallways. Jeez, and they're dead even again. So I also know that both of these runs had very good listener kill times. Also, the 2557 had a weird hitch that happened right there. Oh, and look, both of them missed with the lightning wall. God, simultaneous kills. Oh, no. 2557 was a little slower. It looked like it was simultaneous. But still, both of these are just incredibly good listener times. The 2557 got a little hung up on the lurker in the water, and then more bumping into walls. So if you're lucky, the gem facet just lines up where you can run straight into it, which the 2605 got instantly, and the 2557 had to wait like half a second or something. So anyway, the purpose of all that dialogue is just to advance the plot enough to where you can get one character to trust you enough to spy on another character, and then you go to that character and confide in her, and then she gives you the dagger so that you can go kill the listener. Oh my god, what happened? The 2557 is ahead again. Okay, so now we're returning back to the castle. One of many trips returning back to the castle. We try to combine these trips, so we have 3 gems that need to be treated by Nystol here. It's obviously faster to collect 3 of them and then have them all treated at once than to take them up one at a time, as you probably do when playing the game casually. Then we run into Nystel's magic closet here, so we can grab the only runes that we use in the entire game. Also coming up here is another example of using mouse movement. Right here we switch to mouse movement so that we can turn that corner. If you don't use mouse movement, you end up overshooting the corner, or you have to slow down. And then I put the runes in the bag during a jump so that I'm not holding the keyboard, because I have a problem where I get double inputs sometimes if I'm using keyboard movement and trying to mouse click. I don't know if that's a problem with Ultima Underworld 2 specifically, or if it's something to do with my DOSBox setup. No idea, but I've made those adjustments to mitigate. So it looks like the 2557 fell a little bit behind because of the gem facet not being lit up to enter Talaris, which is a little unusual. That one usually doesn't give us that much RNG trouble, but it can. And then here we run across the lava to damage down as much as possible to make this death warp faster. And I jumped in the lava, or I jumped out of the lava in the 2557 because I was afraid that my health was getting too low. Okay, so I know the 2605 is ahead at the end of this split. And here is where we get the pearl-tipped rod, which is actually what it's called, which is why I click on it. You don't need to click on it for any speedrun purposes, but I want everybody to know that it's called a pearl-tipped rod. So I think the 2605 was close to my gold at the time. This is interesting because I was behind in the 2557, but then had such exquisite gem RNG that these are even now. In fact, the 2557 is a little bit ahead. And that gem facet is usually the one that gives us the most trouble. Like, that's the one that can... you can sometimes be sitting there for like 10, 15 seconds. Now, this is funny because in both of these runs, Zarya was getting in the way, and in the 2557, I ended up accidentally talking to her, which you don't usually do. But this back and forth is pretty funny. It's a scary moment with the 2557 taking a sword hit that brought me down to critical health. God, this is amazing. So, geez, these are almost synced now too. The kill was faster in the 2605, but it's hard to find that gem sometimes because it's the same color as the ground. And the 2557 lucked out a little bit because it spawned a little bit like overlapping with the wall, so it made it easier to see. Okay, so here are the save jumps. This is the only time we use this in the run. There is a faster way to do this using the menu hotkeys. I don't do that for two reasons. One, I think it's just harder, and I never learned how to do the hotkeys. But the other reason is because it's the part of the run that looks the most fucked up. And also looks like it's not clear what we're doing. And I like to show that, look, we're saving in this slot, and then we're saving in this other slot, and then we load from a slot that we just saved. We're not loading from some pre-made save or anything like that. Because I think it's pretty confusing otherwise. And it like looks like there's some bullshit going on. And there is, but it's, you know, it's glitchy bullshit and not save game cheating. The glitch is that loading a save game will carry your momentum from the previous save. So you jump in the air and then load a save, and it will carry your upward momentum. So you can use that to like float higher. Yeah, look at that. These two are now synced, completely synced. This little run has some fun inventory management where we take a couple of items that we picked up and consolidate them. And then I like to take the basilisk oil out of the box and put it in the main inventory because we're going to use it pretty soon. Okay, and so this move here, we slide across this ice and then we turn at a certain angle to try to line up here, and I knew in the 2557 that I was going to miss it, and so I used the portal to put myself into a safer stationary position. The 2605 did not have to do that, and instead I used Flame Wind to kill some of those Yetis to just get them out of the way. Because if you line it up, you don't need to portal. Also right here, this portal might look like it's completely pointless, but it skips over a cutscene trigger where the Guardian talks to you. Man, I did not even see where this one, where the 2557 saved so much time. But it's ahead by 5 seconds now. Okay, looks like both runs had about the same RNG for the gem facet entering the academy. I'm pretty sure that the 2605 catches up a little bit here. Not enough to be ahead, but catches up, I think, a couple of seconds. This entire segment is a bunch of puzzles in the game that we completely circumvent by using the portal spell to clip through walls. Or go through doors that you would normally need keys for. So here we pick up an extra fireball wand because our lightning wand is either out of charges or about to run out of charges. There's a bit of a stumble here in the 2557 where I was facing at the wrong angle to teleport through this maze. So that gives the 2605 a little bit of time to catch up. Also, this water room actually can be done without using portals at all. You can just make the jumps. The portals just make it a little bit faster. In fact, a lot of portals in this game or in this run are used just as like convenience. like in this segment here, when we return to the Goblin Tower, we're portaling through walls that just kind of save us like a little inconvenience of running around a hallway Instead, we just go straight through the hallway. Which, you know, it's a speed run, so this any time save is worth taking. Also, I call this segment the murders segment because it contains the upcoming murder, well, the upcoming 2 murders where Patterson murders Nelson and then we murder Patterson. But I think there's also 2 other murders that happen here, and we actually just saw one of them when we went all the way up to the top of the Goblin Tower and used the pearl-tipped rod and didn't save Bishop. We just left him there. So he's just going to die there. And then at the end of this segment, when we go back to Talaris, we kill the evil version of this Talarid that handles reproduction for their entire species. And normally in the game, you're supposed to kill him and then make a new one. But we don't bother making a new one. So all of the Talarids are just doomed to extinction now. So I don't know how many murders that would actually be, but it's definitely more than one. Okay, so I've been yammering on about the segment, but haven't been actually watching what's been going on here. I knew that I missed that hallway. I remembered that from the 2605, so that's a bit of a time loss there. And my the 2605's Patterson kill was uncharacteristically slow for me. And then, so the way that I do this speed run, I do this Talaris segment here instead of towards the end. I think it's supposed to be faster to do it at the end because you have the fly spell, but I don't think it actually saves much time. So I just put it here because it makes sense to me in my brain to not have to like double back here after I've done all this endgame shit. Both of these runs had a little bit of a slow. Normally you try to kill that thing on the first shot. And if you don't get it, you just have to keep trying. Yeah, both of them lost a little bit of time there. And now coming up in the Void segment is where the 2557 gives all the time back because I kept failing to do the portal out of the blue room into the purple room. And I realized it's because I was completely flush with the ceiling, which that affects how you can portal. But I lost, I think, 13 seconds. Now, one thing I want to note about this is that a change that I learned was casting freeze time in the previous, like in the pyramid room when you're doing the Cubert pyramid, because that avoids the soft lock with these Vors walking around and possibly clipping the bottle into the floor. If you freeze time before you enter the room, they just stay in their initial positions and you're just completely safe. It's like as long as freeze time stays active, it's completely consistent and you don't have to take a safety save. Another thing with the bottle is we throw it a specific number of times at a specific height, and that damages it down to the exact number where you can just throw it and know that it's going to break. Oh, so I was wondering why, because I knew that these segments were even now. But also I knew that the tomb segment was faster in the 2557. And it looks like that might be entirely from the initial gem RNG. Because I think these segments were both pretty clean on both runs. They both had good fireball hallway. These fireballs can just be in random places, and the hallway that you go through, it doesn't look like it, but it's actually on a diagonal, which makes portaling kind of different from how it would be in straight hallways. So that little teleport right there is we portal into the water, and then we move backwards, which brings us into a teleporter that teleports us back to the room with the lich. Actually, I can't even remember if all of these characters are liches or if it's just the one, but back into the room with all of the named enemies. Okay, so the 2557 had a gold segment here. So that's obviously unbeatable by the 2605. I think the 2605 also had this character getting in the way, which is kind of funny. But I think the 2557 just had really good RNG respawning into the room at the beginning of the segment. And then looks like it just doesn't make any mistakes. They're sort of too big. You can mess up this portal through the wall at the top of the ceiling because it's a little finicky to line up. And one thing that I did do on the 2557, because I knew I was pretty far ahead, is I hesitated a little bit before starting to type all this stuff in, because you can soft lock the game if you choose the wrong dialogue options. And then last time save here is talking to Nysel from all the way across the room instead of running all the way up. And that is the first sub 26. So big GGs for these runs.